Hey everyone, welcome to this, my first episode, or maybe even my only episode, depending on how it goes, of Bible Breakdown. My goal here is to reclaim the Bible from what has become a very loud, very assertive branch of Christianity that really twists the Bible message into a very exclusive, and some would say hateful message. One way or the other, it's not a message that represents the message of Christ, or as I'll show, even the Bible. On my channel, I like to discuss Christian ideas that present Christianity in a way that it was meant to be, and that is a religion of love and self-giving and inclusivity. If you like content like that, make sure you subscribe. Also, if you have friends or family who've started seeing Christianity or even started preaching Christianity as a religion of hate, and you think they might benefit from a video like this, make sure you share it. Okay, so I encountered this video yesterday in the wild, and I wanted to address it. This is by a person who is very, very upset about homelessness, and he feels that the best biblical answer is just to stop helping those people who are in need.
Stop giving your money to bums. The Bible says, "For even when we were with you, this we commanded you, that if any would not work, neither should he eat." According to the Bible, if someone refuses to work, they do not deserve food.
Look. There's no doubt if we just picked out a verse from 2 Thessalonians, looked at it in English, and not even worried about the context around it, that is definitely what it says. I don't think I'm saying anything groundbreaking here when I say that to understand an author and what that author meant in a letter that was written 2,000 years ago is a lot like knowing what an author means today. Like, first, you need to look at it in its original language, and you need to read it in its context. Like, am I wrong, or do these things just seem obvious? So there's actually something really interesting happening here in 2 Thessalonians. What the author's doing is, the author claims to be Paul, and he's upset because there are these people spreading lies in the church. They're being disruptive and apparently meddling in the affairs of others. In fact, Paul calls them busy bees. The Greek word here is periergazomai, and the Strong's English-Greek dictionary defines it as to waste one's labor, or even being disruptive to others' business by inserting yourself into it. So he talks about these people in chapter 3, and in verse 10, which is the one that this gentleman shared with us, says that they are not working. Well, the Greek word here for work is ergazomai. So if you listen to the two words, then you may get it. It's a play on words. He's saying these people aren't ergazomai. In fact, they're periergazomai. That is, they aren't working to be constructive, they are working to be disruptive. So, what should these people be doing instead? What should they be doing in order to eat? Look at verse 3:13. So he says, they're not working to be productive, they're working to be not productive, but, 13, as far as you, brothers and sisters, never tire of doing what is good. So, what are these people doing or not doing, as the case may be? They are not working at doing what is good. They aren't doing good, and they aren't working for the community. In fact, they are being disruptive, and they're working against the community. See, people needing welfare or a handout, that's not the problem here. People causing chaos in the community, that's the problem. And Paul is making the impression that we are called to love and do good rather than to be disruptive and do bad. And that makes a lot of sense, right? Because it sounds a lot more like the Christian message of loving others and loving yourself, like we get from Paul.
If you're homeless in the United States of America, the vast majority of the time, that is by choice. Either by choosing to live a lifestyle full of drug use, drinking alcohol, or just being plain lazy.
Hey, I wonder where he got this information. I'd be very interested to read this peer-reviewed article in a respectable journal where researchers have determined that the vast majority of homeless people chose to be homeless, or they choose to be homeless. Just a quick internet search of mine brought up a few data-driven websites that show that overwhelmingly the people who are in homelessness desire to find resources and support to help them out of that situation.
Many Christians actually think it's a virtue to give free money and free food to homeless people.
That's because the Bible clearly says it is. This is like the #1 theme in the Bible. It's even talked about more than praying or even having faith. There are literally thousands of verses that talk about helping the poor and the marginalized. Like James, who says it means nothing to tell someone without clothes or daily food to go in peace. Instead, he says you should be meeting their physical needs. Or Isaiah, who says that you should share your food with the hungry and provide shelter to the poor. Proverbs, where we read that whoever is kind to the poor lends to the Lord. Hebrews says that by showing hospitality to strangers, you may actually be showing hospitality to angels. And then Jesus, who confirms that and goes a little bit further by saying that whatever you do to others, you actually do to Jesus. Right? And those are just a few of the many, many verses that talk about helping those who are less fortunate. And here's a couple of other fun facts. The Israelites were commanded that when they picked their fields, they were intentionally to leave things behind for the poor, the foreigner, the fatherless, the widow. So this is 100% free food, giving free food to people who don't have it. In fact, the Bible makes a very big deal to show that this practice is directly responsible for Jesus. See, the book of Ruth is all about the grandmother of David. And if you remember, the Messiah, Jesus, is to come from the line of David. And so in the book of Ruth, we learn that Ruth and her mother-in-law Naomi take advantage of this practice by gleaning the fields of Boaz, the person who's eventually going to marry Ruth, become the grandfather of David, whose line would eventually lead to Jesus. So Ruth used this practice of the landowners giving free food to people who don't have it in order to eventually give birth to David, and then eventually the line will lead to Jesus. Also, and this is the biggest one in my opinion, Jesus was homeless. Like Matthew and Luke clearly say that. And guess what? People gave him free things. In fact, if you want to know, Luke tells us it was a group of women that followed him that gave him things and supported him. And Jesus also then sends out his disciples and specifically tells them, guess what? Don't take anything with you, but instead rely on people giving you things to eat.
Yet it's because of this bleeding heart mentality.
Interesting use of words there. Isn't there something about bleeding to give others and that actually saves them in the Christian message? Maybe somebody bled on a cross or something. It feels like I've read that.
That is actually enabling homeless people to continue to live their sinful lifestyle. You see our streets are getting dirty. Heroin needles are all over the place. There's dung in the streets. Kids often can't use the playgrounds in their neighborhoods because homeless people are sleeping on the play equipment and even taking showers in their splash pads.
Yeah, so what's interesting here is that none of those things that you listed are actually in the Bible as being a sin. They may be things that as a middle-class, privileged American like yourself, you don't like it or you don't understand it, but please don't put it in the Bible just
Christians
because you
need to
wish it was
start
there.
reading their Bible and reject this unbiblical attitude.
And on this point, we both agree. Hey, look, I do a lot of different types of videos on my channel, so if you think Bible breakdown was successful and you like this particular kind of video, please let me know in my comments so I'll know to do more of them. Bible breakdown. Also, if you have questions about Christianity, hey, let me know that as well. Other than that, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and if you know anyone who might benefit from this video, be sure to share it with them.